Massive update and exciting episode prepared for Good Evening Crypto today, as we will be discussing how much XRP to become a millionaire. And we're not talking about the next 5 years. We're not talking about the next 10 years. We are going to be discussing the next 24 months for the XRP community. And Johnny, Brad Garlinghouse is going to be speaking to the Senate Banking Committee. We are only 2 weeks away from the House addressing the Crypto Clarity Act. And maybe most importantly, we are seeing interest from both Wall Street and the banking system in a way that we have never seen before. So I thought a fun episode today would be discussing how much XRP does it take to become a millionaire. And as I was going through the XRP rich list earlier this morning, one thing is absolutely clear. The number it may take is smaller than the XRP community is anticipating, as it only takes 2,500 units of XRP to be in the top 10% of wallet holders on planet Earth. Now, even more optimistically, any company or person who wants to be in the top 1% of XRP wallets only needs 51,300 XRP, and you have entered the top 10% token holders on planet Earth. But Johnny, with these different headlines coming to fruition, I thought it would be valuable to look at the XRP price chart to kick off today's episode. And what have I been saying time and time again for the XRP community? It's not that we need to see XRP do anything that's never been done before. We just need to see a repeat of what Bitcoin has already done over the past decade. And XRP, due to its hyper suppression during the Biden administration, I believe is coiled and ready to move in a way that we have been waiting for and predicting for the better half of a decade. And as you can tell, a $20, a $30 XRP is finally written in the cards for the next calendar year. We can realistically talk about price targets like $10, $20, $50 because of the several catalysts that I have already outlined. And I'll outline them one more time and kick it over to you, Johnny. Wall Street's interest in crypto, stable coins, regulation, settlement layers, ISO upgrades. And today, we are also going to be showing our listeners how the Federal Reserve has confirmed they are going to shift to an ISO compliant protocol starting on July 14th, 2025. So we're going to be breaking that down as well. But Johnny, how much XRP to become a millionaire? What are your thoughts?
Wow. Well, you know what, Abs? That's a very interesting and loaded question. But the good news is we have some answers for you guys today. So, when you look at it, first of all, you got to say to yourself, okay, what are those catalysts? What drives it? And so as I look at it and I look at what I think is how the price action is going to be, to me, it's always a speculative phase and then a utility phase. And so utility phase is many years on the road. We're not going to focus on that, but there will be a speculative phase, Abs, that I believe will be triggered by regulation. I think the Clarity Act is the key linchpin to all of it. And when that happens, this is where it gets fun now. So I've always kind of thought, and I'm going to give you more of a range because people are looking for a specific number, what it takes to be a millionaire. I kind of got two numbers that I kind of see happening. My first target has always been somewhere in that, and this is about a 2-year period of time, in that $10 to $12 range. So I think as we get the Clarity Act and we get regulation and things happening, we see liquidity coming in. If you're sitting there around a $10, $12 range, obviously you're going to need about 100,000 XRP, which is a lot, but that's what you would need to get to the millionaire state. But I also believe there's two other targets that are realistic. When you see the boom of the speculation market, I think it can take us up as high as somewhere in the 50-ish, $54 range. So when you look at the price at a $54 range, you only need about 18,000 XRP. So you can see that depending on where we land, anywhere between 18,000 and 100,000 XRP to become a millionaire. Now, what do I think is realistic? Well, this is going to be pretty easy. Probably somewhere in the middle, around $25, right? So to me, that's how I would play it. And I would say, look, if you're looking to become a millionaire in the next 2 years, I think the realistic number, if you play the averages, is probably somewhere in the 20 ranges. And we're probably looking around a $25 XRP-ish, somewhere in that zone. And you're going to need about 40K XRP. So if you were to say to me, Johnny, what's the most likelihood in 2 years? I'd say you're going to be looking around 40,000-ish XRP. And I'm sure you'll tell us what percent that puts us in.
Here's the reality as well, guys. When we're looking at the XRP community and where it is today, it's in its infancy. This market is only going to grow over these next 12 months, but most importantly, over these next 10 or 12 years. And so I think it is going to become increasingly more difficult for the XRP community to accumulate a bag of 2,500 XRP. And we've already experienced that, Johnny, as 2,500 XRP in November of last year was only a $500 investment. Today, that is a over $5,000 $50,000 investment. And it goes to show just how quickly this market can change in a pro crypto environment. And lucky for our community, we are here before regulation, before ETFs, and before the biggest companies on the planet begin going out and purchasing these assets, adding them to their balance sheet. Now, something I want our listeners to keep in mind, as companies begin leveraging XRP and other digital asset ecosystems, there is going to be an incentive to purchase the asset and use it. So if a company would like to go out and become a top 1% XRP wallet on planet Earth, they only need about $100,000 investment. As this market grows, and as Johnny just predicted, we see a $25 to $50 XRP. Let's go with $50. That is going to quickly become a $5 million investment. So it's going to become increasingly more difficult for the everyday person to get a decent amount of exposure to XRP. In regards to how much XRP I believe somebody needs to become a crypto millionaire, my number is 25,000. And the logic behind that is not based on hopium. It's not based on parabolic price action over these next year or year and a half. What it is based on is the evolution of this asset class. And here's a piece of data to kind of reassure you. But what would you rather have exposure to? 50,000 XRP or 1 Bitcoin? Live chat. I'd love to know, first of all, if you're enjoying this content, smash that like button and subscribe to the brand new Good Evening Crypto channel. 1's for XRP, 2's for Bitcoin. Comment in the live chat and underneath the video. But to me, the answer is very simple. I'd rather have 50,000 XRP. And quite frankly, I'd rather have 26,000 XRP, as you see, put you in the top 2% here, than a full Bitcoin. Why is that, Johnny? It's a simple game of return on investment for me. I believe the XRP market cap at 135 billion, where it is today, is extremely undervalued. And we are only going to see this project continue to grow and expand both in the American markets and offshore. For Bitcoin to do a 2x, we need the market cap to increase $2 trillion. For XRP to do a 2x, we only need a $130 billion increase in market cap. Factoring in the market cap multiplier, with all of these positive catalysts set to come towards the back end of this summer, Johnny, I believe to be a top 10% XRP holder, meaning to accumulate 2,500 XRP, I think it's going to take $25,000 starting here in 2025. But chat, I would also love to know, how many XRP do you think it takes to become a crypto millionaire? Comment underneath the video. Johnny, floor is yours.
Yeah, you know, I don't think it's that unrealistic. I think when you think about the upside potential and the amount of innovation that's coming and the amount of liquidity that's coming in, you know, we are going to see a very serious liftoff, if you will, or exponential run that could drive it anywhere into the double-digit numbers and somewhere into the $20, $30, $50 range. I don't think is inconceivable. And so if you're sitting there saying, hey, I want to be a millionaire, you want to be accumulating. Hopefully you've already accumulated some. And if you haven't, you want to be accumulating these prices because, as you said, in the future, you won't be able to afford as much XRP a year from now that you can right now. So hopefully people aren't waiting. If you're sitting on the sideline and wondering what should I do, once regulation comes out, I'm not so sure you're going to be early anymore.
It's going to be very difficult to tell the XRP community we're early when we're looking at a $25, $35, $50 XRP here, guys. But I want to break down 2 major updates, and we are going to dive into the XRP price chart at the end of this episode. So be sure to stick around to the end of the show. Brad Garlinghouse said, I am honored to be testifying in front of the Senate Banking Committee this Wednesday on the need for passing a crypto market structure legislation. Constructive crypto market structure legislation in the United States is imperative in bringing about a new era of innovation and financial opportunity while protecting investors. And we don't have to speculate anymore. For 15 years, digital assets have been the fastest growing asset class on the planet. And we're finally ramping up into an environment, Johnny, where even I think you'll admit, we are moving away from speculation and into real world adoption of these assets. So who is Brad Garlinghouse going to be speaking to? The Senate Banking Committee. And more importantly, French Hill. This is what he had to say about crypto regulation here starting this summer.
Middle of making crypto policy for the United States of America. You have an upcoming crypto week. Tell us about that.
Well, right now, digital assets, cryptocurrency, and everything related to using financial payments on a blockchain is basically not regulated, not clear to consumers, investors, entrepreneurs how to use it, how to avoid federal prosecution. So in 2 weeks, we'll bring to the House floor the Clarity Act, which gives the rules of the road of how to invest in digital assets, how to trade them, how you can be a broker, and the market framework for digital assets. And we'll also bring to the House floor dollar-backed payment stablecoins, which we believe those 2 things will advance America's power around the world in financial services.
And there you have it, Johnny. The two key takeaways there. Big companies have no reason to be prosecuted, and there's going to be clear rules of the road for both the banking industry and Wall Street to start interacting and leveraging blockchain technologies. Johnny, crypto, floor is yours.
And that's what is going to unlock the floodgates like you ain't seen before. There are tons of companies that understand technology is what drives the world. Innovation is the lifeblood of anything. And cheaper, better solutions is what every company strives for. They all want it. Why? Because it improves the bottom line and they make more money. Well, here we got a technology that has that promise to deliver on cheaper, better solutions, which are going to improve their bottom lines, drive their stock prices up so they can buy bigger boats, bigger houses, and bigger islands. And there's only one thing in the way that's stopping all of it right now. The unclarity, and I know that's not even a word, but it is the non-clarity that we have, that we don't have today, that has been driving, that's forcing that money to sit on the sidelines where it can't come in and play. Because we've heard it. The big companies don't want to get sued. Well, guess what? Those days are numbered. We are getting so close, Abs, to when this legislation passes. I don't know exactly how long after it passes. You have to go back and look at 96, how long it took in the Telecom Act. But when it passes, there will be a certain period, and then all of a sudden, I believe the floodgates will open and you'll see money coming in like you ain't seen before. And that's when all the price activity, we talk about bull runs. We ain't seen a bull run like that. You guys ain't seen it. I seen it. I lived through it in 96, 97. And I think, we got the big, beautiful bill, and we're going to have the big, beautiful bull run that's going to drive crypto. It's going to make it a mainstay and new market in this place, and prices like we ain't never seen before, and many, many crypto millionaires to come.
We are about to witness United States banks start adopting blockchain technologies, and I believe it is the XRP ledger that will take center stage here towards the back end of 2025. Just a quick reminder, guys, if you enjoy this content, smash that like button and subscribe to the brand new Good Evening Crypto channel. Now, here's an update put out by the Federal Reserve earlier this morning, Johnny. Less than 8 hours ago, we got a brand new update from the Fed. And here's what they had to say. Prepare to go live with ISO 20022 on the FedWire Fund Service starting on July 14th with this testing and training resources. And as you can tell, they put out a short video here. Now, why is that important? The fact that we are witnessing a market right now be regulated at the exact same time that the Federal Reserve is about to start using this technology, they are showing us the playbook. And something they won't say out loud. You turn on CNBC, a lot of times they focus on the Bitcoin ecosystem, the Ethereum ecosystem. When it comes to the adoption of Bitcoin, we are at an inflection point. This market is about to change, and it's right about to become technology oriented. They're not going to look at Bitcoin and say it's a digital gold, it's a store of value. Instead, they're going to be looking at these technologies and saying, who's Bank of America using? What's going to be the base layer for tokenized assets? Where are these stablecoins being launched? And where's the demand coming from on these decentralized apps? The moment that we enter that point in the digital asset space, Johnny, it's projects like Hedera, Chainlink, AVAX, and obviously XRP that are going to outperform not only Bitcoin, but some of these older, slower technologies like Ethereum. Again, guys, July 14th, the FedWire is going live with ISO 20022 protocols. Johnny, what do you think about this lining up with the Clarity Act coming later this summer?
Abs, there is too much money at stake for any of this to happen by chance, okay? There's a reason why we were talking about in 2021 a crypto bill. You and I and a bunch of others were talking on the Good Morning Crypto Show about it was being passed around in Congress. In 2021, we were talking about this. And here we are today in 2025. And we're finally going to have Crypto Week, where that very same concept of clarity being passed back then, it took 4.5 years. It was planned on purpose. And why? Because for the powers that are in, there's too much money at stake for them to lose when a new technology comes along and obsoletes their technology. So what do? Well, you got to slow the train down. You got to put yourself in a position so your train is now on the tracks, or better yet, you own the new tracks, so that when you wipe out the old tracks, you haven't lost anything because you now own the new ones. But that takes time. You can't just go from that track to this track, right? And so that's what we had to go through. And that's why there's the 4 stages. The third stage was then they fight you. And the fourth stage, which we're in right now, is then they join you. They are now ready to make money. And that's why, Abs, you and everybody else and me are excited. because they're ready to make money and they're going to make their money. The big boys always do. But the little guys like us, if you're smart enough to front run it like we did and we're in it, now we get to enjoy the very old saying, a high tide rises all boats.
And Johnny, the quiet part that they won't say out loud is that this space is going to evolve because of tokenized assets. So the logical question we must ask ourselves is which blockchain is going to dominate the tokenization of real world assets here inside the United States? And my belief is, due to the tokenization of real world assets, we are going to see blockchain projects like the XRP Ledger outperform Bitcoin for not only this cycle, but for the next decade or two here in the crypto space. But I did want to give you all an XRP price chart update to kind of end today's episode. What are we witnessing right now? We are at an inflection point, not only for XRP, but for the entire crypto market. We have been looking at the Bitcoin dominance versus XRP chart for a very long time. And as you can tell, 5 different times we have tested this level of resistance. We are back below this trading range. So broadly, if we can break through this line of resistance, it is off to the races for the XRP price chart. And this would coincide perfectly with a breakout on the XRP versus US dollar price chart. And today we reached as high as $2.34, clearly creating a higher low, testing about $1.91. We are well on our way here. And I'm going to repeat what I've said many times. We need a daily closure above 260. We need a weekly closure above 285. And it is off to the races, creating new all-time highs for the XRP community, guys. But I'd love to hear, are you going to be taking profit at a $10 XRP? 1's for yes, 2's for no. Johnny Krypto, when we go into this space of stablecoins and tokenized assets and ETFs and blockchain products on Wall Street, I believe it is the largest United States project in XRP that is set to outperform. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been very consistent. I think there will be a series of blockchains that will coexist. No doubt about it, in my opinion. And that's why I believe a diversified strategy, at least for me, works well, because I want to be able to play in all the different areas. But when you look at the ones with the, it's not just about the technology and utility, but it's also about the management team, the relationships, and being able to support the technology to get it out there. And the reason why I'm so bullish on XRP is, listen, these guys went out and spent $1 billion or $1.5 billion on hidden roads to be able to now build a proof of concept of how their technology is going to work. And then they're going to demonstrate that to the entire world, and everybody's going to want to use it. And so when you talk about pole position, they put themselves in a great position to be someday the number 1 and number 2 crypto. That won't even matter anymore. As the days of numbers, they're number 1, they're number 2, nobody's going to care. We're just going to care about, are they being used? Is the adoption coming? And to me, there's so many use cases. You talk about tokenization, we talk about AMMs, talk about cross-border payment solutions. There's so much utility they're building around the blockchain, and then eventually an EVM integrator right into Ethereum. It just puts them. It's hard to say that they won't be one of the largest blockchains in the world.
Johnny Krypto says you need 40,000 XRP. I say you need 25,000 XRP. Chat, I would love to hear underneath the video, how many XRP do you think it will take to become a crypto millionaire? But we appreciate you all, and we'll see you in the next one.